Hello everyone and welcome back to another My Little Pony video. This time it'll be different. In this video I'll be counting down the top 5 worst My Little Pony episodes. I should mention this, but if you find this video offensive in any sort of way, at least have some common sense, as this topic is all about pointing out at certain things we didn't enjoy the most in the series. I decided to come up with a list that the community can agree on. So here are the top 5 worst My Little Pony episodes. Yakety Sax. This episode focuses on Pinkie Pie, where she found a new hobby, playing an instrument from Yakistan. However, she's not very good at it. Her friends confront her, telling her that she's awful playing with her new instrument. This leads Pinkie Pie into an episode of depression and decided to move to Yakistan, where her friends later found her eating ice cream as she drowns herself in sorrow. Twilight realizes that when Pinkie Pie is playing with the instrument makes her happy. Knowing the good friends they are, they decide to watch her play from the heart as all the yaks in the room listen. And then one of the yaks advised her that you don't have to be perfect to play. The problem with this episode is that we never ever see this instrument again. While the episode follows a plot revealing a friendship lesson, just as My Little Pony has always been doing, it's a bad influence on children and certain people who are sensitive to the truth. It's not about criticism, but a person should also think about a person's self-esteem when someone tries to be honest. Another problem that I like to point out is, why would her own friends judge her? Pinkie Pie has probably played plenty of instruments. She is the party planner of the Core 6. She was made to make others laugh and smile, but honestly, Pinkie Pie should not deserve this. I know Pinkie Pie once went into another depressing stage from the Party of One episode, but that's a whole other story. I did like when Mod Pie featured in this episode, as I always enjoy every Mod Pie moment, but as suggested by the fans and the Derpy Brew community, this is probably one of the worst episodes out there. The Crystalling Part 1 and Part 2. The Season 6 premiere features 2 plots in this 2-part season premiere. Twilight Sparkle, knowing the Princess of Friendship she is in this time, she gives Starlight Glimmer a friendship lesson to reunite with her childhood friend Sunburst. Upon their arrival at the Crystal Empire, Twilight and her friends are introduced to Princess Cadance and Shining Armor's newborn child, who appears to be an alicorn. Their newborn baby, with extremely unstable magic, shatters the crystal heart, which then breaks the barrier around the Empire, forcing cold snow and strong winds to enter the area. Meanwhile, Starlight tries to befriending Sunburst, but things didn't go as planned. However, Starlight believes Sunburst might be able to aid on their quest to save the Crystal Empire. So they did that with the help from Sunburst, using the crystals to restore the Crystal Heart, which they could have done in the first place. There are so many things wrong with this premiere. First of all, why couldn't Cadance protect the Empire with her magic just like what she did in Season 3, even though the Crystal Heart wasn't present? Maybe this wouldn't have happened. It probably would be better if Cadance got an abortion. And let's not forget about Starlight Glimmer. All this time we had to wait nearly 20 minutes until Twilight realizes that Starlight should make her own decisions, just how Princess Celestia had to allow Twilight to make her own decisions. Also, the whole conversation between Starlight and Sunburst was extremely awkward. The two should have been honest with each other, but everything just backfires. I think Twilight should have finished off Starlight back in Season 5 and put an end to her misery. She never moved on, but enslaving an entire village just makes her the worst possible character there is. If this was a friendship problem, then it probably would have been a disaster for Starlight. If that wasn't enough, maybe if Starlight had a way to contact Sunburst, then she wouldn't have turned her back on the world. Non-compete clause. This episode is about Rainbow Dash and Applejack competing against each other to see who will win in the next Teachers Awards. To describe the situation in short, Rainbow Dash tried to do everything her way more faster, while Applejack tries to do things the old-fashioned way. I understand Applejack was trying to teach the students about teamwork, but where's the friendship lesson in that subject? It just looks like AJ wanted the students to do the work for her. Now let's talk about the plot for the episode. First of all, this is the worst possible way to educate children about teamwork. It's cliche that two ordinary characters compete against each other and not take their responsibility focusing on the subject. While the students had to do most of the work, Rainbow Dash nor Applejack weren't doing a very good job, and their actions nearly got the students killed, literally. I mean, at least Fluttershy does a better job than Rainbow Dash and Applejack combined, but I think the writers should have came up with something else instead of embarrassing their own likable characters, but that's just my hypothesis. Daring Doubt. Following the story, yet another Daring Do episode, we get a glimpse at the full tale of the Daring Do novels written by another author, claiming that Daring Do could have faked her adventures. While the episode goes on, Fluttershy tries to find out the truth as Rainbow Dash argues with any pony making lies about Daring Do. On the other hand, while Rainbow Dash may be the one to understand the well-written novels on the Daring Do franchise, she is only protecting Daring Do's reputation without realizing the full story behind AK Yearling's adventures. Despite knowingly this episode was featured in Season 9, this is the last episode we hear from Daring Do, which is a disappointment as we finally found out the truth about Yering's adventures. Matter of fact, her story may have been true all along, but Daring Do didn't realize she was stealing, aside from keeping artifacts safe and not forgotten. The thing that bothers me about this episode is that all this time, AK Yearling's adventures wasn't always real. She didn't make up lies, she just screwed up so she could get famous. The last problem, probably the worst episode on this list, has to go to The Last Problem. Now don't get me wrong, this is a good episode in its own way. The music is great, most characters got a happy ending, however there are several errors that slipped in. To describe this episode briefly and short, basically there's a flashback how Twilight had a bad day on her honorable promotion. Then Twilight shows us how friendship was so important to her, just as the song describes how friendship is all around us. Then the episode ends with a book closing. What a worse way to end off the series, am I right? Well, that's not the only reason. How come we couldn't get a full episode about the main characters all grown up and talk about their adventures after not seeing Twilight in a very long time? We knew Twilight wasn't going to have a bad day, but it's pretty cliche as this always happens to Twilight in the series. But for this episode, that was unnecessary. This episode just feels really short. Half the episode follows a past event. Maybe this should have been a 2-part series finale, where in part 1 shows the flashback, and the rest just talks about the friendship in part 2. Also, speaking of Twilight, they should have made a better design for her. Whatever or whoever that is, she looks exactly like Princess Celestia. I mean, were the animators that lazy? Like I said, this episode feels short as if it was rushed. Well, whether you like or dislike this episode, you cannot deny these facts, but I'll leave those opinions up to you. Thanks for watching. If you have a My Little Pony episode that is your least favorite, then comment below and share your opinions with other people. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm Rushioto, and I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.